If you found this video enjoyable, please leave a like and hell, even subscribe if you want to. It only takes 2 clicks, and push that notification bell just to get the messages for my videos. That would be greatly appreciated. When it comes to villains of the night, I think of 2 respectively in anime, Dio Brando and Muzan Kibutsuji. After all, the author of Demon Slayer was inspired by JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with Muzan and the breathing techniques of the Demon Slayer Corps. So I thought it would be pretty interesting to put up the 2 villains of both respective franchises in a death battle. For no particular reason, just because I thought it would be a pretty fun thought experiment for you guys and me. But before we go into a pretty in-depth analysis on both characters, I'm going to put up some guidelines for this fight. For this hypothetical battle, there will be a 15-minute time limit where at the end the sun will break into dawn, causing whoever is losing at the time to definitively lose, because both characters, and spoilers here, can't really one-shot each other. And since I want a winner, I'm going to let the sun call the match at the very end. Also, spoilers by the way for Demon Slayer, I'm going to be spoiling the entirety of the ending of the entire manga, so if you don't want to get spoiled, here's your warning now. Alright, let's jump into it. So starting off with Muzan, Muzan is an incredibly powerful creature of the night. Before the climax of the ending arc, black-haired Muzan only has 2 really impressive feats, that being, him being able to cleave regular people in half and being able to survive a building level explosion. That's about it for, pre-ending Muzan. It's not too crazy yet. A nice statement and feat that you could add right before Muzan transforms into his white-haired form is that in universe, it's understood that all the 12 moons are weaker than Muzan, regardless of previous moons' abilities and powers shown. So basically, anything they can do, Muzan can one-up them. It's even stated for some of the promotional stuff for the manga's end. So let's finally enter white-haired Muzan. And straight off the bat, I'm going to get this out of the way, the poison will not be in effect for this fight. It is implied that white-haired Muzan throughout the entirety of the early part of this fight wasn't feeling the effects of the poison that makes him age extremely rapidly. So technically the Muzan we saw for the majority of this fight is technically at his peak, but is being slowly degraded. I want you to keep that in mind for his later feats and showings in this video, because they possibly could be stronger. When it comes to Muzan's abilities and hacks, they are pretty wild and extremely powerful. In all honesty, I'm gonna be real here, Muzan is the better creature of the night than Dio in all respective terminology here. Muzan's main ability is his blood demon art, which doesn't actually have a name if I remember correctly, but he has the ability to make massive muscles and fibers with bone infused within them to make tendrils and whips and just hard constructed muscles to really damage the battlefield pretty heavily. These muscle constructs are also extremely fast as well. I would even debatably say even fast as Muzan himself with travel speed and combat speed. These muscle constructs almost have a will of their own. While Muzan is thinking to himself, his muscles can really react on their own, fighting multiple different Hashiras that after a training arc should be at least bare minimum 4th upper moon level and possibly even above. On top of the fact that these muscles also contain Muzan's blood. In universe, the blood can either make you a demon or with a high enough dosage just almost instantly kill you. Just honestly depends on what Muzan's doing, and in this scenario it most likely is a high lethal dose. The blood is so toxic even a character like Tanjiro can instantly keel over with just a few hits. An added bonus to the muscle constructs is it also gives Muzan multiple hearts and brains, giving him the ability to not die instantaneously to being his head lobbed off. Moving on to Muzan's probably next incredibly powerful ability, and even hacks to be honest, is his regeneration. It is stated that basically Muzan's regeneration is instantaneous. It has no delay after an attack has pushed through Muzan's body. The minute a cut is halfway through, it is already halfway healing. It is by far the best regeneration in the entire franchise of Demon Slayer. While demons take a few seconds to instantly regrow limbs, Muzan is basically healing whole scars in a few seconds, basically making him not needing to, instantly regrow a limb if needed. The only time when his regeneration is delayed is with red blades and the original Sun Pillar, whose blade was able to, delay his ability to regenerate. But since Dio doesn't have that, we're not gonna really, talk about it that much. And even if his regeneration were to to fail for whatever reason, Muzan has the ability to explode, allowing his body to be spread in multiple directions at once, allowing him to regenerate at his full capacity, if needed. It is also vaguely explained that Muzan also has superhuman senses, being able to actually hear out multiple different people and their attacks mid-fight, so he's also highly intelligent on top of that. It is stated in the manga Muzan is a creature who prioritizes staying alive above anything else, and when pressured into a corner, he has the ability to have a Shizer attack. My bad if I mispronounced that wrong. This attack basically makes anybody become under the effects of a Shizer, coughing, breathing, he can't basically function, and this ability is so powerful that if anybody is viewing it with one of the Demon Slayer crows, you will also be affected, but it will be kind of dumbed down a couple notches. So it has the ability to transcend space as well, but it does come with a downside. If he uses it, he has to wait a couple seconds before he can actually do it again, but this might be because of the poison. I don't genuinely know. Now Muzan has one final ability, kind of two, but mostly one. Muzan can form a giant baby out of his flesh, which can survive out in the sun for a bit longer than he can, almost kind of like body armor or a defensive shell of that kind. But if you were somehow captured into this baby armor, Muzan has now the ability to kind of absorb himself into you or put his will onto you. It's kind of vaguely explained here. From what we can see, Tanjiro just acts like a regular demon. He doesn't have any of Muzan's qualities except for his abilities, and Muzan just says his emotions will be bestowed onto you, meaning that you're not really Muzan anymore. You're just kind of a whole new demon with Muzan's kind of, I would assume, consciousness, or just kind of, him having a backseat in the back of your head, kind of, at least with my interpretation of the ending part of the ending of Demon Slayer. So that is all of Muzan's abilities that we know of. Muzan is referred to as the Demon King, and since all demons kind of come from him, there might be a plethora of other abilities he didn't show or didn't mention, but the fact of the matter is he scales above all the demons in verse verbatim. Like, there's no debate, he is the demon in Demon Slayer. So any feats they can do, Muzan can definitely surpass them indefinitely. And to be honest with this next portion, I really don't need any previous demons because his feats alone in this ending part of the finale are well on their own pretty good enough. So when it comes to speed calcs for Muzan, I'm gonna throw up some math on screen. Basically, what all of this is basically saying is, since the Love Pillar was able to fight a demon who can be calced around lightning speed on a high ball and on a low ball hypersonic, that means Muzan also be hypersonic or lightning level because he beat the ever-living shit out of her and every other Hashira in the final battle. So there you go. If you need proof that he is lightning level, here's everything on screen for you. And since he scales above her and the other demons, he possibly could be lightning level plus or even possibly faster, but really I'm not going to go past lightning level plus. But if I were to say at a possible maximum that we could possibly say for definitively, he'd probably be like, what, 27 million miles per hour? That'd be insanely fast. When it comes to attack potency potential, Muzan can be scaled to at least small city level or small town level. Town and city can be interswapped, but it's basically the same. There are feats of him just absolutely just decimating buildings with one shot, him throwing basically the stone Hashira around, causing a small earthquake to occur. His Shizer wave is kind of more like a shock wave, so it does have a lot of force that is coming out of his body, which also can be calced at a small city level. So at bare minimum, Muzan is small city level in terms of attack potency, and that goes for Muzan's entire kit. He is a very formidable opponent in general. He is very, very powerful. He has a lot of hacks. He is very, very fast. Overall, Muzan is an extremely threatening beast of the night and should not be underestimated at all. But how well does he do against Dio, Brando, and the world? So if you know anything about JoJo's, what we do with Dio is you basically scale him off of Jotaro in its entirety. But before any of that, I think we need to get into part 1 Dio just a little bit to understand kind of where Dio's vampiric powers come from. So part 1 Dio has 3 main abilities: his regeneration, his laser eye beams, his instant freeze technique, and his kind of almost like prodigy kind of abilities, at least in part 1, quoting from Zeppeli. Now for the sake of this video, part 3 Dio in his awakened state and his regular base state don't have his laser eye beams or his instant freeze technique. The reason why is Jonathan's body is still filled with Hamon and is kind of pushing back against Dio's vampiric abilities. But there may be an argument saying that since Dio had the scar in the beginning of the fight with Jotaro and at the very end doesn't really mention it and actually says he has reached a high so high that even in his part 1 state he never really mentioned it, kind of clarifying the fact that part 3 Dio with Joseph's blood blood and Jonathan's body has reached a whole new level of power for Dio, but only shows the capabilities of having his part 1 regeneration back, but only in the earlier parts, because in later part 1 he's able to do a lot more crazy things thanks to his prodigy like abilities. Overall, if I were to compare the creature of the night like abilities both characters have, Muzan definitely beats Dio out for a landslide. I'ma just be straight, honest, and real with you here. Part 1 Dio doesn't have a lot of good feats when it comes to destructive AP and speed. I'ma be real, Muzan fucking flat out destroys him. Even being 15 times stronger than a normal human, Muzan is possibly 100 times stronger, plus because he's able to even outmatch some of the Demon Slayer Corps members with red marks that actually increase their strength by 100. Of course, that is just part 3 Dio with pretty amped up part 1 abilities and not just full part 3 Dio's totality. And that is before I add in the awakened abilities of part 3 Dio. So you're probably wondering, what about the world? So to scale part 3 Dio, you have to scale off of Jotaro from part 3 and possibly even future versions of him, since Star Platinum and the world are said verbatim to be the same type of stand. So there are multiple things I can say here that I will list in order, but I'm not going to go too in depth in since I've already covered them in a number of other videos. So the first one could be, of course, the Silver Chariot and Hangman one, where, you know, Silver Chariot's able to react to light and even fight it while fighting Hangman. Of course, then that version of Polnareff gets a buff with Anubis, and Jotaro is able to outspeed and outmatch that version of Anubis. Call that right back into the Dio fight, and then there you go, he's as fast as light. Or you could do it where Silver Chariot punched the rays of the sun, and then that version of Silver Chariot was eventually became into Anubis. Anubis then lost to Jotaro, and then go right back into the Dio fight, etc, etc. Basically, anything Silver Chariot does, Jotaro beats him, and then he can just call that right back in. So I guess from here we can go into part 6, where you could either use the stand stat statement where it says Star Platinum is faster than light, or you could use the Jolene statement where she punches a meteor that is coming from orbit, and that takes a lot of math involved, so I'll just show it here on screen, basically proving that using that you can scale it off of part 6 Jotaro, and then, you know, scale it off of part 3 Jotaro back into Dio, stating that he is massively faster than light. Or you could use the new one that I recently found out, that since part 6 Jotaro has the ability to react and even think he can fight part 6 Pucci, who is infinite to immeasurable speeds, you could possibly call that back into part 3 Jotaro into Dio, who then proceeds to say that he's even faster and stronger in base to Jotaro. Even without his full vampiric capabilities in part 3 Dio is still a monster of a stand user. Being faster than light, and I mean massively faster than light, by the way, he is a complete monster. And when it comes to destructive AP, you can actually use the Silver Chariot blocking the rays of the sun and calc them to be around large town level or city level, depends on your words, and just scale that off of Jotaro back into Dio, who is slightly stronger than base Jotaro. So there you go, he's even stronger than even we think. Or you could say the justice statement where Jotaro sucked in an entire town's worth of air, saying that he actually is town level, but I like the light one a little bit more just because it seems a lot more consistent with numbers. And finally, the world's ability, Time Stop. During part 3's run, Dio has the ability to stop time for about 5 seconds in the beginning of the fight. After absorbing Joseph's blood, he has now the ability to stop time for 9 seconds and the potential to walk in it for 11. Okay, that is it for all of base part 3 Dio's abilities and kind of statements and feats and stats. Overall, base part 3 Dio is insanely powerful. He's genuinely and probably, in my opinion, one of the strongest people in JoJo's, thanks to his vampiric abilities that aren't at max power until an awakened Dio state. On top of the fact of Time Stop is just ridiculous. He's massively faster than light. He can do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time, peaking out around diamond hardness thanks to part 3 Jotaro. Overall, part 3 Dio, excluding some of the more unique abilities I just talked about when enhanced by awakened Dio state, is extremely powerful. And briefly talking about awakened Dio, it's kind of like a multiplier. If you take in account of the Scar statement and an awakened Dio and how he says he's never felt a high like this before after drinking Joseph's blood, you could say on a low ball he's 2 times stronger because there's no evidence of his other abilities, but if you do take it at face value, he is back at his peak at 15 times stronger than a normal human, at least in the JoJo universe, or possibly even stronger than that, on top of a longer time stop and a pretty okay regeneration, which is still good, by the way, just not compared to to Muzan's. And very lastly, since I talked about it with Muzan and I feel like I need to bring it up here, how does Dio fight? Because there's kind of two ways to interpret it. Like I said before, Muzan is a creature that wants to live, while Dio, on the other hand, while fighting, is kind of almost troll-like. We see multiple examples of him just kind of using time stop to kind of outwit his opponents or just kind of make them confused, while other times he actually uses the ability to its fullest extent and actually just offs people while in frozen time. And when it comes to Jotaro, he was kind of scared and was just like, I don't really know how to deal with a person that can view me in my world. So Dio's kind of a little bit weird when he fights. I say it's more consistent to say that he's a little bit more like, I'm gonna play with you for a bit longer than I really should, but maybe if threatened, like with Kakyoin and Joseph, he can take it seriously, but I'm just pointing that out for later. So what is my personal verdict on this fight? I am an AP and statements kind of guy. Looking at this with no character involved and just raw stats and just hacks and abilities, Dio wins. I am sorry to say that for the Demon Slayer fans, but being massively faster than light, being just stronger in attack potency and potential, having a 9-second time stop on top of the fact that he can do really truly anything within that 9 seconds of frozen time is just way too great for Muzan. While I can say Muzan definitely has way better, body hacks and just is truly a better creature of the night, Dio just has way too many hacks above him that are just a lot better. They're fewer in number, but a lot better. And even if, let's say hypothetically, Muzan was going to attack him with the poison or the seizure attack or really truly anything, Dio can just stop time right before it. It is in character for him to literally stop a person's attack and just kind of troll them. Plus, I need to really clarify the fact that lightning speeds are not as great as massively faster than light speeds. Those are two different types of speeds that are so massive in between each other that it is literally insane. Here are the numbers for it on the screen. Dio is so much faster than Muzan, it's not even funny. To be totally honest, I don't even know if Muzan would be able to even react to Dio / even tag him in all respective capabilities of each character, even with a really good highball on Muzan that might not even be realistic. On top of the fact that yes, Muzan's regeneration is almost instantaneous, but characters can still react, meaning that it's still in the ballpark estimate of being as fast as lightning without a delay, and Dio is still massively faster than light, so even the regeneration would have a problem with Dio. But for the sake of argument, what if we bring their characters in? What kind of fight would it kind of play out like? Very similarly to what I previously just said, but there would be a kind of main factor that I think two characters would kind of falter and rely on. One, Dio will probably troll too much against Muzan, and Muzan, being a creature of survival, not wanting to die in the sun, could absorb himself into Dio. Whether or not this could possibly even happen thanks to the world probably being able to stop it right before the action is committed thanks to time stop, well, thanks to Tanjiro at the end of Demon Slayer showing off what happens when Muzan puts himself forcefully onto a person, it really just seems like a character just kind of becomes a demon with Muzan's abilities, with kind of inheriting his will, just trying to survive and being this ultimate supreme being. And from what the text kind of relies on and kind of says, at least in my interpretation of the ending and of that fight, Muzan just kind of gives himself away to somebody else, almost in a way, kind of hoping and praying that that person will just become like him. Meaning that Dio, probably not having the necessary requirements to fight it off, maybe, would just become Muzan too. And since Muzan and Dio are basically almost the same character, vaguely, I see Dio still winning in this department, sadly. On top of the fact that, here's the thing, Dio spent a large amount of years underneath the Atlantic Ocean with Jonathan's body, a body that was a direct counter to Dio's vampiric abilities. Hamon is a power of the sun and replicates the sun's rays through breathing, and Dio had to spend basically a entire human lifetime underneath that ocean resisting that power to one day come back and gain his stand abilities. So there might be a chance here that Dio, through sheer force of will, might be able to reject Muzan's advancements onto his body. But since it's kind of interpreted, at least in my way, that Muzan will just kind of disappear, Dio kind of still wins this fight. And I even think this scenario isn't very likely to begin with in the first place. So basically Dio wins because he has the time stop hacks and the bare minimum requirements of regeneration to fight him. Well, that was kind of anticlimactic. But regardless, I hope you liked the video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, stay hydrated. See you in the next one, ladies and gentlemen.